Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about a topic that comes up, and you'll see some people out there say that, hey, powerlifters should train more like bodybuilders. And I'm going to say there's a degree of truth to that, and I'm not saying exactly like bodybuilders. I'm not saying they should accept all the practices of bodybuilders and focus on slow moving and mind-muscle connection, but the idea of focusing on training volume for hypertrophy for the majority of your training, right, and using a lot of supplemental work will keep you in the game longer, probably help you better with weight classes overall. It'll probably keep your injury rates lower, right? There's some truth to that. And particularly, it's going to become particularly important for guys who don't want to abuse a lot of stuff. And you guys know what I mean by stuff. Okay, and the reason for this is we need the hypertrophy. Quite frankly, a bigger muscle is a stronger muscle. It has more strength potential. All right, that's the better way to put it. It's not always a guaranteed to be stronger, but the strength potential is much higher. And you'll see guys who are so genetically gifted, or they use so much gear, that they can completely ignore this stuff for a while. Because you'll see that, and I'll get people who are like, well, this lifter or that lifter, they're highly successful and they don't do any of this. Like, okay, how long have they been doing it? How quick are they going to burn out? How many injuries have they had? Right? Stuff that we need to think about. And you've got to also accept that the guys who are doing the ultra high specificity, they stick to a very low exercise selection. Everything is really heavy. They're young. They're young. All these guys you see who are successfully doing this are like in their 20s. Okay, they're in their 20s and they're genetically gifted. Very gifted. They can get away with this until they can't. Until they can't. It's partially an injury thing. Because again, we need to lift heavy and we should lift heavy. We can't lift heavy all the time. It will come at a price. It will take its toll. And I'm not saying we can't even lift heavy every week. Again, the system I advocate is conjugate training. We're going to max on at least 2 exercises every single week year round. But that's not training heavy all the time, is it? Because if we only do 2 or 3 heavy lifts and everything else is in speed work or hypertrophy training, means it accounts for very, very little of our lifting. We're not doing it all the time. We're doing just a little bit. And if we aren't doing a bunch of heavy triples, and 3 rep maxes and 5 rep maxes and 3x3s, we're not doing all this stuff with it. We're not really doing a lot of heavy lifting. We're doing the minimal amount to get strong. Right? The minimal amount. And we're doing it efficiently and just maintaining it year round. Most of our training is geared towards hypertrophy and even towards body composition. Let's say you're going to compete in a weight class. Again, guys can ignore this to some extent if they're willing to bulk all the time and get real fat. If you're going to be in the real heavy weight classes, you can get away with this. Use enough gear, you can get away with it. Because again, gear builds muscle, right? Guy who does nothing but really heavy lifting and minimal volume is going to grow on stuff. They're going to grow on it. Not saying they're going to maximize their growth, but they'll grow. You can ignore it to a little more extent. And they can focus on just heavy. But if you don't want to do that, you're going to use nothing. You're going to be clean. Or you're going to be conservative in what you use. It's a difference between the two, of course. But they're kind of on the same end of that spectrum. Right? You need more volume work. You need to maximize your hypertrophy. And you really need to be thinking about weight classes at that point a lot more. Again, if we're focused on body composition, right, we're focused on maximizing muscle, and then dieting down. We don't necessarily have to minimize fat gain, but we have to diet down at certain points. You're going to be a lot more successful in weight classes that are not near the heavier end. Because your body composition is going to be better. You're going to maximize the amount of muscle on your frame to put you into the best weight class possible for your height. And you're going to get your body fat lower to get you back down into an appropriate weight class. Okay, focusing on body composition would be extremely beneficial. And the other perk there too is looking like you lift, right? Looking like you lift because you put a little bit of extra time into your delts and your arms and some of these show muscles. You're going to look like you lift more. That's the thing that occasionally you get, people will say that and they'll see a really strong lifter and go, well, he doesn't look that jacked, right? It's like, well, if you look at his back and his legs, he is. Because that's where most of your muscle is. That guy is big. He just hasn't spent much time on the show muscles that people see in the mirror or when you're doing a selfie. Just a selfie of your upper body, right? That's show muscles. And if you haven't put as much time into those, you might look smaller from that angle, but are actually maybe bigger overall than the guy you're being compared to. But let's come back over to that. At least look like you lift a little bit more. There could be merits to that, right? There could be merits to that. Not saying it's what we should focus on, but it is nice to look like you lift. And not only when people look at you from behind or look at your lower body. But I think that one of the biggest points here is really about the injury side of things. How long do you want to do this? How long do you want to be really, really strong? And I'm coming at this from a longevity perspective. I'm doing this up in my 40s. I'm trying to still get stronger still, right? I haven't reached my limits. But I approach it from this perspective. Okay, maybe you don't need to care about this. If you plan on just powerlifting through your 20s, doing some meets, doing the best you can, maybe trying to go for some records or to win meets or whatever you're doing, and you don't care about lifting after that, you don't care about the damage you do to your body, then you can probably ignore this advice until it catches up with you, and then you're going to start questioning. I mean, if you didn't get a world record out of it, a lot of people are going to start really questioning, was it worth it? Right? You get to 35 and you're busted up and you can't train anymore. Right? How passionate are you about this? Is it going to be a lifelong endeavor? And if it's going to be a lifelong endeavor, you're going to have to moderate the amount of truly heavy lifting that you do. You're going to have to moderate it. And that means the bulk of your training is going to be with lighter weights and supplemental lifts, accessory movements. The stuff that gets you big and thick, right? The stuff that gets you big and thick so that you can keep getting stronger and have the support musculature to support it without just beating your body all to hell. There's merit to this idea. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.